Guys, what are we doing today?
So that note was called
I am a big lover of Carnatic music, but I also love Western music.
So I'm always joking that I'm genetically modified, because you can have between the two whites, you can have another two keys with takita takadimi. It's too complicated, But the most difficult and the most advanced form of the guitar is a flamenco guitar. In my previous life, I was in India. That's why when I heard for the first time Indian music, I was completely mesmerized. How beautiful is that? That was my initiation into Indian philosophy and culture. So I read the Bhagavad Gita.
That's an interesting discovery that we got to know from you.
That you learn music by listening your teacher, Guru Shishya Parampara. That you have a teacher and you repeat what you have. That concept disappeared in Europe because, right, I was surprised how little kids from India, they can improvise, how rhythmically they are amazing and stable.
No, I have seen some of your videos, and it was, really great concert that you are doing.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the viewers and listeners to UnFriendly Company. Today we are introducing a new segment. Well, you must have already seen the teaser, right? So the new segment is called Strings and Brushes, where melodies meet masterpieces. So this segment is a very new segment that we have brought in. This is purely to talk about art, music, culture. So it's going to be an entertainment packaged into like kind of a colorful box. So I'm not much of a music expert. So I thought I should bring in a couple of people who know music. So that's why we have two co-hosts for this, Miss Divya and Mr. Arun. So just to give an idea, Divya, she is a very professional singer, trained dancer, and a purely Carnatic music lover. I think she will talk more about it. I don't want to spoil the whole, the whole surprise. And Arun, he is a old college mate of mine. He is a big fan of metal music. Metallica is one of his favorite bands, and he writes a lot of songs. He is a beautiful lover of music. I mean, I give the stage to Divya and Arun. Guys, what are we doing today? What is the agenda for today?
Yes, I am a big lover of Carnatic music, but I also love Western music. Today, we have one of my friends come, a very professional guitarist, Mr. Miguel. Hi, Miguel. Welcome to the podcast.
Namaste to all.
Very much namaste to you. Miguel hails from Poland, and if I'm right, he started his music journey at the age of 12. Okay, and he discovered flamenco, sorry, and took the master classes from renowned flamenco players. And his passion has led him to a lot of he's performed with a lot of Indian musicians too. To name few, Mr. Rajesh Mandolin and Mr. Stephen Devasi, Mr. Giridhar Udupa. These are the renowned names with the in the Indian Carnatic classical music field. He's associated with them, and he has got his own band called as Indialucia. And I would ask a few questions to Miguel as to how did his music, how did his journey in music start? What made him uh, come to this field? What dragged him to this field?
So there is two genres of music that I'm big fan of. One is, the first one was flamenco music, and the flamenco music is a music from south of Spain, music that was created by gypsies in around end of 17th century. They were creating the music which they were mixing with their own heritage. They took from India because they were from India, and they came to Spain. 100 years it took, the whole travel through the north of Africa and Middle East, and they arrived to Spain, and the music they created in Spain is completely different than the music that other tribes of gypsies they created in other countries. So flamenco music is very special for their expression and the way they dance, the way they sing, the way they play the instruments, which is a guitar basically. And the guitar, that is one of the most famous instruments of the world, came exactly from that region, from the south of Spain, because this is the place where guitar was born. And the guitar on the beginning was one of those instruments who created the flamenco music. Then guitar became so popular that nobody knows what is flamenco, but everybody knows what's the guitar. So there is a lot of variety of the guitars, but the most difficult and the most advanced form of the guitar is a flamenco guitar. That is extremely difficult because I will talk later about what is the flamenco guitar music, maybe.
I would just like to know the relation. See, you were born in Poland, right? But flamenco is something which belongs to Spain. Yeah. Then what is that connection? Like, is it that you fell in love with flamenco and then you went to Spain to pursue this, or how is it like?
So I was lucky that my father was a big fan of flamenco music. He was during his studies, he got a scholarship in Spain. 1 year before I was born, he went to Spain, and he was having kind of like today we have Erasmus, but those times in 70s there was no such thing like Erasmus. So he went for this to Spain, to Seville, the most beautiful place in south of Spain. And obviously, capital of Andalusia is Sevilla, and capital of flamenco is also the same place. So he met flamenco music, he saw the performances, and he was completely mesmerized by the emotions that the flamenco was giving and transmitting. So he brought 6 LPs of a flamenco music home. So when I was born, and I was born almost exactly 9 months after my father came back from Spain. So I'm always joking that I'm genetically modified because my genes, they were maybe created in Spain those times. So my mother was pregnant, and my father was listening those 6 LPs all the time. So I was as a tiny little embryo already. I was like this size when I was already listening to flamenco music through my father, through the through belly of my mother. So in the natural way, it was injected into my underconsciousness.
This I am reminded of, in Mahabharata, if you have heard, Abhimanyu when he was in the womb of his mother, and when this Padma Vyuha is nothing but the lotus formation. When that is being told, Abhimanyu learns it while being in the. It is very much similar to what you are telling, so I can like kind of correlate, and also with since you are very much attached to India and Indian music.
I think even among Indian mothers also, they always say that when you're pregnant, you have to listen to music and influences the child, and
Yes, you have to learn to listen to a lot of spiritual things. That is when your child will have positive vibes. That's yeah, the culture which we also follow. Yeah.
so that's what I think. You have that flamenco.
Yeah, that this is how flamenco was actually. I could say that I was maybe vaccinated.
Embedded to your soul.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I don't put it right. It embedded into the soul, into your DNA.
yeah. That's
Right.
the thing. Also, the gypsies from Spain, they are saying that a gypsy person is a free spirit. They can be born whenever they want. So my spirit decided to be born in Poland. However, I'm gypsy from Spain, but I was born in Poland because it is less hot in Poland, maybe. But few people in India told me that in my previous life, even in Poland, few people that very sensitive people, they told me that in my previous life I was in India. That's why when I heard for the first time Indian music, I was completely mesmerized. How beautiful is that? And it happened when I was 12 years, no, maybe more, maybe 15 years old. I was when I started listening to the Beatles, the most famous group of the planet, and the Beatles. They had a lot of influences by Indian music because those musicians brought Ravi Shankar to Europe, and they brought sitar and tabla, and this is thanks to them. Hindustani music, at least, was got famous in Europe. So not only in Europe but in America. So that element, when I first heard for the first time a song called "Within You, Without You" of George Harrison, where none of the Beatles were playing, only the Indian musicians. They were playing on Dilruba, they were playing on tabla, they were playing on sarangi, I think, and shenai, I think. So and suddenly you hear the drums and electric guitar, and suddenly you hear da din din da da din, the tintal rhythm, and then the tintal rhythm is also converting in 10 beats, because there's one part that's in 10 beats, which is ectal rhythm of no, ectal is 12, which is the japtal rhythm of Hindustani music. Anyway, that song, I was completely like, wow, what is this? I want to explore more about Indian music. And then I discovered there's another song of the Beatles called "The Inner Light," which was based on the Bhagavad Gita, because the famous scholar who was a professor of Sanskrit in England, he translated directly from Sanskrit to English. He translated Bhagavad Gita, and he gave that book to George Harrison and said, read that book, and maybe you can be inspired to write some lyrics for another song. And George Harrison wrote the song called "The Inner Light." That some of the quotations are almost like the same. I have this book here by hand of the Bhagavad Gita translated into English by Juan Mascaro, the famous professor. So those two songs, they triggered in me the necessity, like the desire of exploring more what is the Indian music. And like few months later, I met on the street some people with dolak and with the shaved head, giving some gulab jamuns and some agarbati.
They must be people from the ISKCON.
Yes, exactly. They were. So I was going for meetings with them. I got my Bhagavad Gita, and I got my gopi.
Japmala?
Yeah, there's one.
Japmala.
Yeah, the Japmala. So that was my initiation into Indian philosophy and culture. So I read the Bhagavad Gita, which was not the Juan Mascara translation, but it was the book. And there was also one book which was the interview of George Harrison, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney about. They were talking about the Bhagavad Gita and the whole things. And that book, I forgot the name of the book. I had it. I borrowed to somebody, and it disappeared. But anyway, it was done by the ISKCON people. And this is how I started having the whole experience of the spirituality of India and the food. First time I was trying the taste of how the Indian food was tasting. And oh my God, that's so amazing. And then my dream was to visit India, to buy sitar and play sitar, which few years later I could complete that dream, because in '99 I went to India for the first time for my first trip. I spent 5 months in India studying sitar and learning everything about the Indian culture, philosophy, spirituality, and everything. And then I was completely and lost into that. I forgot about the guitar. I said, okay, Indian
And
music.
your Guruji in sitar was?
My Guruji in
Your
sitar
Guruji in sitar
was Avanindra Shevlikar from Nagpur.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
that was the
He's
Vilayat,
another famous.
Vilayat Khan style of sitar playing.
I have a question.
Tell me.
So you are from that Western music, right? Where I'm a very you can say from a layman's point of view, I'm asking. So when you musicians, when they plan their songs, right, they go like the Indian ones, they go with sare gama pa, right, as the base, and the Western will go with dararomi, something like that, right?
Do re mi, do
Do
re
re
mi.
mi fa sol la, sì.
Yeah. So when you have do re mi in your mind, how do you adjust with the saregama? Is that the same, or is there some kind of difference between both? How do you plan it, the music in your mind?
Yeah, actually, this is analogical. It's exactly the same. The only difference is that do, re, mi. Do is a specific note, that this is only one note, and you cannot change do for another do because do is only one. In Indian music, sa depends what is your pitch. Sa can be different. But the name do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, they are Italian names of the sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. But the word of the scale is called gamma. Gamma is a name of the scale, and gamma is the two notes from India, Ga and Ma, which is the connection, for example. The only the difference is that in Western music there was completely different history about how music was created, and in India is different because in India people were exploring the relation between the notes in the melody, but in Western music they were exploring the relation between the notes in the vertical way, like how the notes they corresponding with each other when they played at the same time. In India, when they play one after another, so that's why the harmony was created in Western country, where more than two notes were sounding at the same time. Where in India there is only tampura that gives you the drone and the corresponding note. That you don't go into the relation of them 3, 4, or 5 notes at the same time because it is not the part of the tradition of India. And because of that, Indian music went into direction into enrich the melody and enrich the rhythm. That's why in India you have such a complicated rhythm, especially in Carnatic music. You have extremely difficult talas that can have 256 or even more beats per one bar. When in the same
Right,
time in
right.
Western music, typical Western music, you have maximum 4 bars, maybe 6 bars, I mean 6 beats in the bar, which is very short. But in Indian music, you have
Like
much more.
example, Khanda Chapu, which is one of the typical beat where you'll have to sing, and singing a song in Khanda Chapu is really tough.
It is. But in the same time, the development of harmony in Western music created completely different mood because the emotions were created by the notes corresponding with each other, while in the same time in India the continuation of the notes, and there is no concept in Western music like alap or like the jod and jala where you develop the melody. There's no concept like improvisation like you have, because there is improvisation in Western music, but in Indian music you can improvise everything completely. You can have a one little theme or even a scale, nothing else, and you are free and you are whatever, you can do whatever you want. In Indian music, the musician is a creator at the same time, while in most of the Western music you compose things and then you try to repeat them exactly as you composed. And improvisation is only in the special genres of music like jazz or like in flamenco music or like folk music where you can improvise, but the classical music is nowadays almost never improvised. That's the difference. So when I'm
I
explaining in Western here what is the classical Indian music, they think that classical for them means that somebody write the scores and read the scores and play, and classical Indian music has completely different concept of that, which needs always to be explained.
regarding the birth of your band, Indialucia, we would like to get some insights about it. First of all, Indialucia is blend of Indian music and flamenco, right? How did the Indian musicians, when they hear this, what was their first reaction? When they heard the combination of these two.
So maybe the first reaction of flamenco music itself would be also interesting, because there is a lot of things in common. Because as I told you on the very beginning, that the gypsies who came from India, they created flamenco music in 18th century in Spain, and there is a lot of things which are in common between Indian music and flamenco. For example, the scale that is the most ancient scale used in flamenco music in Indian terminology is called Bhairav or Bhairavi or Charukeshi. Those scales are used in flamenco music, and those scales, they were prohibited for many centuries, because you were not allowed, because the Komal Re was not allowed to be used by musicians, because it was called that it was diabolic note, like evil note, because it was sounding very weird. So they said you cannot use that note because it's prohibited. So all those famous composers, they never created any single composition based on Komal Re, which, if I explain you for those who are not musicians. So, for example, this is the sa re ga, like normal no sa re ga, but if you have sa, so that note was called the diabolic note, and you are prohibited to use. And even the Catholic Church that was ruling for many centuries said were even allowed to kill a composer who composed the song with these notes. So gypsies from Spain, that were not Catholics at that time, they were allowed, because they knew that they are free and they can do whatever they want. They started using that scale, which is the scale commonly used in flamenco music. And so, because I'm talking too many things at the same time, I just wanted to say that, because you asked about the reactions. The first thing they said, "Oh my God, they use our Bhairavi scale. Oh my God, they sing in our scales of the very ancient form of music, which were written in Bharatanatyam Shastra in 6th century already." I said, "No, but they are flamenco traditional scales." I said, "No, this is our Indian scales." For example, this was the first reaction. Another one was that the concept of the rhythm structure, like you have teka in Hindustani music or tala in Carnatic music, that there is a concept of adi talam that has 16 or 8 notes in a cycle. In flamenco music, it's also the same, but we have the most common tala is a 12-bit scale.
In flamenco, you use your hands for thala, like how you use in Carnatic music. Is it the same?
No, no.
No. Okay.
You could use, because I'm using this kind of counting, because it's very easy to count using the Indian way, but as a shortcut. In flamenco music, you have to feel the cycle inside. If somebody will show you where you are in the cycle, it means that you're still learning and you are not a great master of music, because somebody has to show you where are you in the cycle. So in flamenco music, it doesn't have that concept. It can show you only when you're learning, showing the hands. However, the hands are very important, because they are the instrument called palmas that you accompany by using 2 different ways of clapping and giving a very difficult rhythm structures. So in flamenco music, improvisation on the top on the rhythm is as important as in Carnatic music improvisation, when you have Tanya Avartaram, or in Hindustani music when you have Sabab Javal conversation between the musicians. That's the concept that we have in flamenco as well, plus the dance. Because I'm saying about scales and about the cycles, but the flamenco dance is very similar in a way to Kathak dance, because there is a footwork, and the dancer is not only visual part of the concert, but is also as an instrument, because the flamenco footworks, they can be as an instrument. And for example, in our albums, I'm recording flamenco footsteps as a percussion instrument, because it sounds very interesting. So this is something that in between Kathak and flamenco music is very much in common. But in the contrary, in flamenco dance, there is none such a thing like telling the story through the movements. You don't show that this is some mudra and this is the flower and this is something. You don't have everything. You just express with the hands and the gestures. You express the emotions that you have, but they don't have any meaning.
So it's just purely only expressions.
Yes, only expressions, and there is difference between women because women they use hands. I'm not the dancer, so I do it horribly. But women they use the fingers like flowers, like a pigeon, dove, like wings. And men they only close and open the arms, so they are very like limited because in flamenco you can do this only. So that's the difference. But in flamenco music and in Katak dance, that's something that is in common, apart from the rhythm structure. But in flamenco music dance, we don't tell the story through the movements, but we show the expression of the emotions. So you can show through the dance how much you hate somebody, or how much you love somebody, or how much you're sad, or how much you're in love, or whatever. But you don't say like lyrics with the gestures.
Something like Abhinaya, what we do in Bharatanatyam.
Yeah,
Abhinaya, something like Abhinaya, if I'm
Abhinaya.
right.
Yeah.
Or I think in Malayalam, I think I don't. You will also know that Navarasangal, right? Is very popular that they show, right?
No, it's actually showing their emotion. It's very intense dance. It's not like our dance form where we show emotions and stories. So those things are not there. But it's very nice dance form. And the dance and the music that comes together, or is that the
In
music was
flamenco,
created for the dance formation?
yeah, in flamenco music is opposite because in classical Indian music you have the music that is like on the top, and then you have dancers that they are lower. In flamenco music, there's no such a hierarchy that music is more important than dance because everything has to go together. So when you have a flamenco performance, you have to have a guitar, singing, and dancing because that gives you the complete of the show or complete of the concert. However, you can only have a dance only without singing, or you can have a singing without dancing, or you can have a guitar without dancing and singing also. But the typical traditional is always having the three combination of the three elements. So so that's something that can create confusion in Indian classical environment, because when we perform with a dancer, they would say, "Oh, the dancer will take attention of us, and we musicians will not have the proper attention."
Right.
And yeah, because the moment when the dancer is on stage and is playing, we have to support the dancer as much as we can because we don't know what the dancer will be dancing. So we have to play accordingly to what the dancers do, and the dancer is the boss for that moment. But then the dancer will stop dancing for some moment, and then the musician is the boss because he will be playing his part of the melody, or musician will be playing the beautiful song that the dancer can just add the element of the dance. But it's always going together. There is no such competence between and fight between the dancers and musicians like always I've seen in Indian classical music.
So Mikkel, do you also write the lyrics of the songs that you create?
I wrote some lyrics of the songs, but basically we are instrumental
Instrumental.
band. However, in every album we always have two compositions that they have a singing. So that's just to give that element.
No, I have seen some of your videos, and it was, I mean, really great concert that you are doing, and I saw the emotion that you go through when you play those songs and all. It's really great.
Thank you.
Miguel, I just want to know, you have been collaborating with a lot of Indian artists, right? So, were you surprised by something by these Indian artists when you were collaborating, something which came by surprise to you?
Of course, a lot of things. The first thing that I admire a lot, and I wrote that a lot in my PhD, which next week I will be having the defense of my PhD, is that in India, you learn everything by repeating and creating. That you learn music by listening your teacher, Guru Shishya Parampara, that you have a teacher and you repeat what you have. That concept disappeared in Europe, because in Europe they created musical schools and they invented scores, and they just, okay, you have a composition in the scores, open the score and repeat what is written. So you have to read like you're reading a poem. So to be a poet, it's not only to read how to nicely read a poem from a book, because you cannot be a poet if you only read the poem. So musicians in Europe, when they can beautifully play music from the scores, but they are never learned taught how to compose them, which in India it's amazing, because from the very childhood, when you learn the first steps, you can learn how to compose, how to improvise, and which is expanding so much of the creativity and sense of rhythm, sense of melody, and the ear and everything, that the question that what I was surprised how little kids from India, they can improvise, how rhythmically they are amazing and stable, how they can intonation, how purely they can play the instrument without having any basur note, how ornaments that they can execute within one note, they can go to another note using so many gamak and this mint, with having none any false notes, because they were always from the beginning, they were learning how to hear the note, how they were, the tempura was in the background, they had to hear the tempura and repeating the notes. In Europe, in the Western country, it doesn't matter whatever you hear, it matters what you have to read from the scores, and that's killing creativity in the children. And I was surprised that I was giving classes in India in some music academies and private lesson I was giving, and those children who already played some instrument, they were like 7, 8 years old. They could repeat everything so easily. Something that I in Europe you could only learn after 2 weeks of playing, and with these children, after 1 hour they could be able to play it, because they learn how to use the ears for the sounds they hear. And another great example, what you have in south of India, is the konakal, which gives you the tool how to understand the rhythms and how to learn them using only the few syllables that you can use. You can have 3 syllables, ta, ka, di, mi, or takita, 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 taka, di, mi, takita, taka, takita, takita, tatingina, tatingina, takita, 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 and you can use the few syllables and you can learn such a complicated rhythms that when you want to write them in the scores, you will be having a headache. Oh my God, such a rhythm! How can I write in the scores? But it's so easy if you just repeat. Can you repeat takita takadimi takita takadimi? And it is 7 beats rhythm. Yes, so easy. But in Western music, 7 beats rhythm, they almost don't exist. They exist in Balkan countries, in Romania, in Bulgaria, because they use a lot of sevens. But in Western music, they don't use seven, because takita takadimi is too complicated. So this is something that is a lot of the improvement you can do. This is what I wrote in my dissertation, that using the Carnatic techniques, you can improve any musicality of the Western music that you can have. And it's something that has to be in musical academies, that everybody obligatory has to learn the konakal in the schools, because it will open your mind, open your creativity, and give you everything. That's something extraordinary.
When you say Carnatic music, there is Carnatic and Hindustani, right? Two are different. So just like that, so once somebody learns Carnatic music or somebody learns Hindustani, same thing in Europe, there are different cultures, right? The Slavic music or the Baltic style or the Gothic and Flamenco, I mean Iberian music style and all. So is there any kind of relationship between, just like how there is difference between Carnatic and Hindustani, is there a difference between the Baltic style and the Slavic style?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. In traditional ways, because I'm not saying about popular music, because some of the popular music I wouldn't even call it music. It's an industry, musical industry for entertainment. But if we say about real music, which is usually the folk music, music of tribes, or music of region, that's amazing how it was traditionally developed through the centuries. That like Baltic music, Balkan music, Turkish music, Slavic music, as you said, flamenco music, Celtic music, Irish music. Everything has completely different identity and has its beauty, different rhythms, different concept of the melody, different instruments, different tunings. For example, Turkish music. Can you imagine when you have a keyboard of the Western music? You have two keys, white, and between two whites there is one black, which is the half tone. In India, you can have between the two whites, you can have another two keys, which are, because between this white and this red black there is another white, another key inside, and another key inside. So you have four quarter tones in between the tones. But in Turkey, you can have up to 8 quarter notes, which is not even quarter because it's 1/8 of note between the two notes, between the two white keys. So they are even more advanced than Indian classical Drupad style of ancient time, because even in Indian music it disappeared a lot of the shrutis, and it's not very much used now because of the harmonium, because actually Western instrument came to India, and they said, okay, we have only 12 notes not anymore 24 like you had in your traditional Indian music. We have only 12 notes, so use only 12 notes and drop the other notes. So that's why I consider harmonium as an instrument that demolished a lot of classical Indian music, because it shrank the number of the notes from 24 to 12. But in Turkey, in the scale, in the one octave, you can have 3 times more notes, and they can sing it. That Turkish music. Irish music has beautiful groove that when you hear Irish music, you want to dance, because it's something that gives you the joy, and yeah, and gives you a smile.
Especially the river dance. I love the river dance.
So it's a lot of joy in that. In flamenco music, you can explore a lot of extremely complicated rhythms and a lot of expressions that when you listen to the flamenco concert, many people they cry, because it triggers in their emotions something that makes them crying, and it's also flamenco music was born in the time when the gypsies were slaves. They were not allowed to do anything except 3 jobs they could do that time. So it was prohibited by law of Spain, many things. So they had no freedom at all. The only freedom they had was the freedom in the music. So music for them was the only place where they could feel free to express themselves, and it was curing them. So that's why the flamenco music is kind of self cure for the problems they had, because they were very how you call it, they were prosecuted. Yeah, but can you imagine, they were they sound like black American slaves in America in 19th century.
Even now in Europe, Romani, the gypsies, the Romani tribes are always seen as something very low, and they are discriminated a lot across Europe. I've seen many documentaries on that. The Romani gypsies.
Yeah, yeah, and I have many friends through among the gypsies and the Romani people, and their philosophy is different, because they all philosophy is that the most important thing is the family, and being together, and so that they were, even if they were poor, because the only thing they had the caravan, nothing else, but they were happy people, and they are still are people. The same when I met in Bangalore, I met a guy whose name was Raja, and he was homeless guy. He for the 18 years when that time I met him, he had no home, because he had the stroke when he was finishing his university. He had the stroke, so he couldn't walk, he couldn't work. So his family, they put him out from the family, and since that time he was in Bangalore or many different cities on the street living and begging for food. But I was surprised, because this guy knew about Poland, about the politics of Poland, and his English was fluent, much more than any other Indians, because I asked him, how it's possible that you speak with a British accent? And he said, yeah, because I had very good school and I was having university with the British teachers. And I'm asking, why you are on street? Because I had a stroke, so I was useless. So my family, they kicked me out from my home. But I'm happy, because what I just need to have a sun, water, and some food. And if I take 50 rupees from people, I can have enough food to survive. So what else I can have? I'm a happy person, he said like that. So that touched me so much. I remember that conversation with him.
And for follow up on that, so the Romani people, are they influenced by flamenco music, or generally where they are? Maybe if they are in Celtic regions.
Yeah, the Romani people, which is the Gypsy, but now they use the word Romani. However, they don't want to use the Romani because it's just politically to be correct. But the Gypsies from Spain, most of them they do flamenco music. This is they part of tradition. This is something that they keep in the tradition and preserve because this is their identity. But this is in Spain. But any other gypsies from other countries than Spain, they do completely different kind of music. They have different instruments. So only those who are from Spain, they do flamenco, or south of France, because they were the same tribe that they went from Spain to the France, and in France also they create flamenco music. However, they are French. So and they came to Spain from Egypt. That's why the word gypsy, which is in Spanish gitano, came from Egypt, because they were saying that we are Egyptians, gypsies. And the same in Spanish, gitano, we are gitanos because they were Egiptanos from Egypto. But in German word, in Polish word, gypsy is called Zigeune. And Zigeun means that people who came from the land between Sindh and Gang. So Singang, they are Sigang. So the Sigangs of Europe, they are those who came from between the Sindh and Ganga river. So that's another interesting part from where the word gypsy came from.
That's an interesting discovery that we got to know from you.
Thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed this episode. Wait for the second part of this engaging talk with this amazing flamenco musician. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on all our future content.